Okay. Let me just jump in because we started this sort of in media race because we've had some technical difficulties when we started this. So this is Ivan here. I'm the MC for the event, Gerald Gardner's birthday bash, and we have with us Valerie Voigt, who is talking about the how to do good rituals. So back to you, Valerie.
Okay. In a small group ritual, you can do the serious theurgical and thaumaturgical work. But the and you need to have the working be focused. That is, you don't get into circle and then kind of go, what does everybody want to do? You figure this out beforehand. And you plan the working. That way you make sure you have all the right incenses and oils and bunny rabbits and whatever else you may need. And everybody should be actively on board with it. That is, you should not be trying to do a working where anybody has any reservations about doing it. I was once in a ritual where all of a sudden, somebody started saying a curse, and I was aware of the situation that was prompting this person's wish to do a curse, but I was not on board with it being done. So I was silently or under my breath chanting a counter spell against the curse. And when the cone of power was raised, it was very, very uneven, and everybody got sick afterwards. So don't surprise people in the middle of ritual.
Excuse me, Valerie. I think you might be brushing your notes against your microphone.
Okay. That's weird. I can hear this weird noise.
I mean, don't worry too much about it. I just want to let you know.
Okay. Well, is that any better?
So far, so good.
Okay. So make sure that everybody is actively engaged in the purpose of the ritual, whether it is a large or a small group ritual. Now, with a small group ritual, it is much more important to be focused because you're going to be doing the thaumaturgical and theurgical work where slip-ups are more likely to cause a problem. In a large group ritual, like a Sabbat, community Sabbat, those are just going to be celebratory. So there isn't as much to mess up. Now, a small group ritual is more intimate. It's more sort of participatory on an individual level for the people who are part of it. In a large group ritual, on the other hand, you have to have people who are clearly in charge of the ritual. I mean, it has to be much more structured. It's much more theater. And you have to have much more clearly defined roles in the ritual. In a small group ritual, depending on your tradition, you might have, a high priest, a high priestess, a summoner, a cellarer, a maiden, etc. In a large group ritual, you need to have at least a high priestess or a high priest, but they have to be much more solidly in charge than they would be in, say, a small eclectic coven ritual. Large group rituals are often attended by people who don't have a lot of magical training or who may even have no magical training. Sometimes they have people who are not even pagans, but they've been brought by a friend because, hey, I'm going to this cool event and come along with me. So the thing is, you need to make the ritual work for everybody there, including these outsiders who have no clue. So, so you need more, you need theatrical skill, because you need to be able to project your voice and in tone so that everybody understands what's going on with your presentation part. You need to make larger gestures, like in a small coven ritual, you do an invoking pentagram, you kind of go, well, in a large group ritual, it's because otherwise the people on the other side of the circle can't see it. And if people aren't engaged in actively observing and participating in what you're doing, then you're going to lose their focus. Now, where their attention goes, their energy goes. And if you don't keep them engaged, and that's including if you have basically dead air during the ritual, then the energy falls and people lose focus and they start chit-chatting with their friends, and they call across the circle and they say, hey, Joe, that hemorrhoid cream you recommended really worked great. You don't want that happening. You want everybody focused. So, so make sure that you are able to move smoothly between one part of the ritual and the next. That is, you know that after the circle is cast, such and such a person is going to promptly step up and call this quarter and that quarter and the other quarter. And you're not going to be standing around and kind of go, okay, somebody call the quarters, another thing you might want for a large group ritual is to have some additional personnel that you don't have in a small group ritual. For example, security people. Security people, we have them in the South Bay. We usually have a designated person or persons whose job it is to sort of run interference if outsiders come up and have questions or whatever, because they don't want the ritual to be interrupted. So in order to engage people's attention and therefore your energy, you need to have more, like I said, more theater, more costuming, more props. Instead of an athame, you might use a sword. I have a really nice ritual sword that I always use in the public rituals. Large gestures, super clear enunciation. And one of the most common problems that I see in large group rituals is that the officiants are mumbling. And instead of saying, I call upon you, oh great mother, it's more like, okay, okay, goddess, I want you to do this. And you don't know what she's saying. So enunciate and be loud. If it's better to be overly dramatic than under dramatic in this circumstance. If you're going to have singing or dancing, you need to have drummers who know what they're doing. One drummer should be the lead, and unless the drummers are an experienced team. And it's best if you can rehearse beforehand. Matter of fact, it's always best if you can rehearse the ritual beforehand if you're doing a large group presentation of any kind of ceremony. Things that work in a small group may be terrible for a large group. A number of years ago, one of the local covens presented Samhain. And they had a great idea. They're going to have everybody get an audience with the crone. So they invoked the crone into the high priestess, who sat on a beautifully black draped chair in her black sparkling robe, and she looked beautiful and wonderful. And people had to line up one at a time, and there were over 100 people at this ritual. Well, the coven had sort of assumed that people were going to like come up and say something like, you know, hello, crone, I honor you. Give me a blessing. And the crone would say, I bless you. And then they walk on. No. People were saying, oh, crone, oh, I think my husband's running around on me, and my kids won't listen to me, and my dog ran away, and I don't know what to do, and I think I'm about to lose my job, and blah, 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 blah. And you know, people are taking 5, 10, 20 minutes to tell the crone all their problems, and the crone is responding. So about 2 hours into the wait, my coven sister and her muggle auntie, whom she had brought to the ritual so that her auntie could see what her auntie from Cleveland, so that her auntie could find out what my coven sister was into. They were both really, really unimpressed. And after a couple of hours, everybody who hadn't seen the crone and everybody who had needed to go to the bathroom. But the host coven didn't know what to do, so they just kept the ritual going until some people had to cut themselves out and go out to the bathroom and come back. And people are some people are trying to kind of stay with the program and meditate and, you know, have mystical experiences or whatever. But most of the people there are kind of grumbling to each other. Or they are talking about what the crone told them or what they want to tell the crone about. And this entire ritual took over 3 hours. I don't know exactly how long, because it felt like it went on all night. And at the end, everybody rushed to the bathrooms. And that was an object lesson in how you don't do that kind of thing. You don't do a lot of people one at a time. A better way to do it is how it was done at the Chalice Heart Imbolc this past February. It was a fairly large ritual, but they had 3 priestesses for 3 different aspects of Bridget, and you get your choice of which one you're going to go talk to. So you have 3 goddesses, no waiting, or very little waiting. And that entire ritual from beginning to end took about an hour, which is about right for a public ritual. Let's see. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of recorded music in ritual. There are times when it might be appropriate, but I also am spoiled because over the course of my 50 plus years of practice, I have had access to lots and lots of really good live musicians who are pagans, who are happy to come help out with rituals by playing the harp or the guitar or the bells or whatever it is they play. And so I understand there are times when, maybe some recorded music would be appropriate. But most of the time, if you're going to have music, have it be participatory. Have it be something that, have it be a song that everybody already knows. Or have a trained chorus that can sing the song. At our harvest home, we have often had a chorus that sings All Among the Barley. And we use that song rather than some other harvest song because it has a repeating chorus that comes along, that constitutes about half of the song total. And it goes, all among the barley, who would not be blithe when the ripe and bearded barley is smiling on the scythe. And everybody picks that up and sings it. And it works very well because everybody's able to participate. They're able to pick it up. Now, they may or may not know all the verses, but we have a strong chorus that's able to sing the verses and keep everybody engaged. And it helps that we normally have a good drummer or two. For dancing, be aware that there are a lot of people who are not really in a position to dance, and you should do what you can to avoid leaving these people out. If they can't dance, maybe they can come to the center of the circle or sit with the drummers and shake a rattle or clap their hands or something. I have a bag of fairly quiet rhythm instruments that I take with me to most of the public sabbats, and I give these out to people who want to participate, but they can't dance, they can't move, they're in a walker, whatever. They can be by the drummers and they can participate by exercising some percussion. I have them quiet because not everybody has a sense of rhythm, and also because sometimes I give them out to children if people bring their children, because children might not understand most of the ritual, but they love to rattle. And I don't want the rattling to be loud enough to distract people in case the kids rattle at a time when it's not supposed to happen. I also design my rituals to have a branch on. That is to say, I have an optional section of the ritual that I can insert in case there are children there who need, because if children are there, they love to have a part. They don't want to be spectators. They don't want to stand there and hold their mother's hand and fidget, and you don't want them to do that either. So for Beltane, for example, when there are small children, I have a crown for the May King, a crown for the May Queen, and I have like toy swords and stuff like that. And the children get to be crowned and parade around the circle, and they have a part in the ritual, and that keeps them quiet for the part that they aren't active in. Let's see. For a group of 20 or more, it's good to have a team of people to hand out the cakes and ale, and somebody to go around with a trash bag to collect the paper cups afterwards. Memorizing your ritual is always the best, but if you're not good at memorizing, or even if you are, you should still have a book on the altar that has your ritual script in it, because even somebody who has memorized their ritual might freeze up. So I don't have it with me here, but I have a very nice, fancy blank book that I put a copy of the ritual script in. I tape it in with removable tape so that I can refer to it if necessary while in the ritual itself. And anything that is a presentation piece, like a song that has a chorus, for example, I'll have the lyrics to the song in there, and I'll use that book. But it's a fancy book. It doesn't look. I mean, it's because one thing I hate to see in rituals is that somebody gets to okay, it's time to call a quarter down. Do you have the quarter calling page? I don't seem to have that one. Yeah, that should be page 5, and I'm missing page 5. Does anybody have a page 5? Additionally, and this applies to small group ritual too, don't have arguments in circle. There was a ritual last year where they got to a certain part of the ritual, and the high priestess turned to the high priest and said, no, that's not the version of the ritual we're doing. They were doing this other version. Don't you remember? And he said, are you sure? And she said, yeah, we talked about this. And and this is in the middle of the ritual. They're interrupting their own ritual to have this argument.
Valerie, may I jump in and kibitz for a sec?
Absolutely, please do.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that my view is, when the time comes, act. Make a plan, follow through, try to memorize things, all that kind of stuff. But better that you just improv something that's beautiful, that's off script, than that you futz around trying to figure out the exact thing that you're going to do.
Yes, I quite agree. And when you're doing a ritual, think about what has worked in the past and also what has not worked. The whole thing should flow well and hang together. For example, don't do a medieval song for casting the circle and then a hard rock song for quarter calls. Also, your quarter calls should have parallel structure. Don't call it archangel in the east and a dragon in the south and an undine in the west and a wind in the north. Have these things parallel. Also, here is a pet peeve of mine. Now, the Gardnerians and most of the other British traditionalists here will know this already, but a lot of people who don't have a traditional background will have read things in books and have not really learned about ritual from growing up in a coven. So do not dismiss deities. Ever, 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 ever. You dismiss quarters, you dismiss archangels, you dismiss all of these sort of lesser entities. You do not dismiss deities. A final salute, yes. Dismissal, no.
Also, I'm wondering if I could jump in again. Another one of my pet peeves, you're talking about like the thing of like, calling quarters, like an angel in the east and a dragon in the south and all this disparate things. Like another thing is if people have come for a particular type of ritual, give them that ritual. Like if they've come for a Wiccan ritual, do something that looks Wiccan. Okay. If they've come for, or at least do something that's just at least pagan. But I've been to rituals where, like, I remember there was that one Astara we went to where their idea of casting circle was to sing Love, 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 the Beatles song, Love, 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 where they're passing a quote-unquote, ball of energy around.
I remember that ritual, oh my God.
And the thing is that like, I think the biggest problem with that, I mean, I love the Beatles. That's a great song. It's, like, nothing against it. It's just that it didn't resemble a Wiccan ritual in any shape or form. It was like a Beatles fan ritual or something, and it's like, if you're gonna do a Beatles fan ritual, that's great. Get together with a bunch of Beatles fans and do that. The Beatles rock, but like, just if people come for a Wiccan ritual, give them a Wiccan ritual.
Yes. Um, let's see. Cakes and ale. Um, there are a lot of people who have allergies or food issues or whatever. And it's good to be inclusive. For example, have apple juice instead of wine in a large group ritual. But you can overdo inclusiveness sometimes. The harvest home ritual that I do pretty much every year. One year I went to a baker because I knew we were going to have about 150 people there. So I said, well, I need like 100 100 anatomically correct gingerbread men, just regular old gingerbread men, and then 25 anatomically correct wheat-free gingerbread men, and another 25 dairy-free gingerbread men. And I sort of went through the list of common allergies and tried to have a type of gingerbread man for each possible person with their combination of allergies. It was horrible. We had a great big platter of gingerbread men, but for one thing, I had to explain as we're passing out the cakes that you want to get the right kind of gingerbread man, and here's how you tell, and it interrupted the flow of energy in the ritual. It basically stopped being right brain experiential, and it started engaging the left brain, where people are kind of going, okay, well, I have to get the one that does have the chocolate drop but doesn't have the little white sprinkle. Never again. If someone has an allergy, they can take the cake, they can touch it to their forehead, and they can libate the rest of it on the ground. So you can be inclusive, but don't be obsessive compulsive about all the details here. Let's see. As I mentioned, thaumaturgy is generally unwise in a large group ritual unless everybody is the same tradition and on the same page and in agreement about the purpose. So mainly you're going to have celebratory and attunement type rituals for a large group. You can sometimes have a transformative sort of rituals, so for example, in the Eleusinian mysteries. And very occasionally you can have something like a weather working, like in California where we have droughts. I have been in a public ritual where we did a very successful rain dance because everybody agreed that we needed the rain. There was nothing to argue about. Let's see.
I think you've also said, on the other hand, don't do a ritual for like, in a place like California where we need rain. Don't do a ritual to keep it from raining on your Beltane ritual.
Yes, that was that was a big problem with the very first South Bay Circles ritual ever, back in 1987 or 88. Several covens were forming South Bay Circles, and that's the local Sabbath association, a bunch of different covens and solitaires who get together to share the Sabbaths. And this is before most of the people in the group knew any better. I did, but they didn't listen to me. they were planning to do this big Beltane ritual, and they did a "Rain, Rain, Go Away" song at the previous waxing moon to keep the rain from raining on their circle. And I advised strongly against it. And in the end, I had to leave because I was not going to participate in anything for banishing rain. Well, they did a "Rain, Rain, Go Away," and we had 3 years of really severe drought. So be thoughtful about, you know, the old proverb of "be careful what you ask for." That really, really applies even more when you're a witch. And I really can't emphasize that enough. Okay, a couple of other things. Use positive language. Don't say don't. Don't say not. Don't say no. For example, you don't say, "ICE isn't going to be able to come and raid in my city," because the word "not" really doesn't compute magically. What that does is it basically says, "ICE is going to be able to raid my city." No, you say, "ICE is going to stay away from my city." ICE will be, ICE being Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is essentially the Gestapo, the Gestapo in the USA. You say, "ICE will stay away." ICE will shut down. ICE will be disbanded or anything like that. But you don't say, "ICE will not be able to do this. ICE can't do that. It won't do this." And the same pattern, of course, for any other thing that you're doing. You use positive language about what you want to happen, not about what you want not to happen. Let's see here. In the planning, you want to take into account things like your supplies. For example, one problem that I have had in working in hotels at conventions and stuff is a lot of hotels will not allow incense or flames of any kind. Now, the flames, I can sort of wince and use an electric candle or omit candles altogether. For the incense, well, it depends partly on what your purpose is in using the incense. If it is if you're treating the sensing of the circle as part of the exorcism of the circle, then instead you might do what I did once, which is go around the circle with the scourge, Witterson's, scourging the air. If the purpose of the incense, if it's a blessing incense, then you could take around like a sprinkling bowl of rose water or something pleasant like that, or lavender water is good. Lavender is nice because it's both protective and blessing, because it's sacred to Hecate. So
I was at this one Isaac Bonowitz ritual at the Pantheacon, which was at one time this really huge pagan convention on the West Coast, and the late Isaac Bonowitz pulled something I'd never seen before, which is he took some dry ice and put oil on it, essential oils on it, and passed that around in a bowl as the aspergine in the hotel where you couldn't do couldn't do incense.
Let's see. The deities work within a fairly consistent system. For example, if you're calling on an Egyptian goddess, then it's best if the other deities and spirits that you call are also Egyptian. Likewise, Celtic, and don't call, say, a Celtic goddess and then an archangel. At least not in a large group ritual. Now, there are certain kinds of situations in a small group ritual where you might be wanting to call in the energy of a lot of different entities who all sort of share a function. But it's generally best to stay focused in one pantheon. And I see that Kalisha has her hand up. Kalisha, do you have a question or comment? You're muted. Kalisha, you're muted.
She's not muted. Her microphone's not working.
Yeah, microphone's not working, I don't think.
Oh.
Another.
Well, I'm sorry to see that.
If we want to type it into the chat, we could do it that way.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'll just interject for a moment. So here at the NWC Canada, in Southern Ontario, we do host public rituals here in Toronto, Oshawa, and Kingston, and each venue has its own rules as to what you can and cannot do. So definitely no burning anything where we are in Toronto. So we use a potpourri for incense, and we use electric candles because we want the ambiance, but and that's fine. But we also are not allowed to have alcohol. So we just use juice. I love Ivan's idea of using fruit instead of baked goods, because then that gets around a lot of issues in the case. But but as Valerie also said, that if somebody can't eat or drink the whatever you're giving, then they can just offer it to the gods. And whether if you're inside, usually there's an offering bowl. If you're outside, onto the ground it goes.
I think my mic is up now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. It's you talking about the ancient Egyptian gods. You just hit one of my extreme pet peeves, and I've got to share this with you because you will appreciate it. Years ago, I was invited to another town here in New Mexico because they were all excited because the group was going to be doing an Egyptian ritual. Now, you have to understand that Egypt is part of my background, both professionally and non. So I was excited to hear this. So I gather up all my Egyptian paraphernalia and I travel over there. And something told me, leave it in the truck. Well, sure enough, ritual time comes around and they're using the four sons of Horus to call in the directions. And I'm going, well, it's not exactly the way the Egyptians would have used them, but okay, I can deal with this. Then in the center, they set up an altar and they call in Isis and Osiris, and their invocations were beautiful. And then another person gets up and walks into the circle, and she starts her dissertation, Bridget, blah, 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 Bridget, blah, 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 Bridget, blah, blah. And this went on for about 15 minutes. And I am about ready to want to throw up. And I raised my hand and I looked at her and I said, Dee, I thought this was going to be an Egyptian ritual. Why are you calling a Celtic goddess? And you're not even calling her by her appropriate name. You are referring to the saint, the deified saint, not the actual Irish goddess who is Breed. And it was like, she said, oh, thank you, Kalisha, for that information. That's wonderful to know. Bridget, blah, 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 blah. Bridget, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you got the picture. It was an absolute nightmare.
It sounds like also she was injecting left brain academic stuff into, or at least pseudo academic stuff into a ritual, which you do not want to do. Don't have a lecture in the middle of your ritual. Don't do it. Like I said, if there's anything you have to explain, you're not doing it right. So if there's something you think you're going to have to explain, rethink how you're doing it and design a different, better way to do it that is self-explanatory. Now, the one time when it's useful to engage the left brain is before the ritual ever starts, so that you can brief people on ritual etiquette. You have to assume that there's going to be several totally clueless people coming to any large group ritual. Just assume that there's going to be some clueless people. So you need to let people know you don't touch the things on the altar and you don't grab people's jewelry. And if you and you want to give them a potty break beforehand, you want to say, okay, ritual is in 5 minutes. If you're going to need the bathroom or medicine or anything like that, now is the time, because once it starts, everybody's in it for the duration. We're not doing anything else. So you can brief them on that, but then have a couple of minutes so they can go and actually use the bathroom and stuff. So you have a transition between your sort of riot act that you read them beforehand and the ritual itself. Plan your rituals to be fault tolerant. For example, you can cast circle with a brushy end of the broom to make it permeable. It does not hold energy as well as a solid cast ritual with a sword. But if you have small children who might be running in and out, which you don't want that, but some parents might bring little children who are going to run in and out. So if you have cast with a brushy end of the broom, it'll be much more tolerant of having people running in and out. Write your ritual with both expendable and expandable parts. For example, I don't actually recommend doing invocatory work heavy invocatory work in a public ritual. But if you do, be prepared that things may go off script, and have some extra songs for people to sing while script is being gone off of. Extra songs are always handy to have. So when you're preparing a public ritual, find yourself 2 or 3 songs that you can sort of have in your pocket in case they're needed. Just do your research and don't do a Yule song at Beltane, for example. And I already covered that if there's small children attending, consider an optional activity that you can insert for them if they get restless. And be prepared to make adjustments on the fly. Sometimes the ritual that we planned is not what the group needs. And we need to be able to let go of our attachment to our precious ritual that we worked so hard on preparing and that we sweated over, because the ritual is not about us, the presenters. The ritual is about creating the right kind of experience for the people assembled. arrive several hours early if possible for setup and final rehearsal. And I always say, right before casting the circle, I say, now it is time for you to turn off your cell phones, your pagers, your fax machines, and other electronic toys that you have.
I'm also going to interject and tell people to take their watches off.
Yes.
Yeah, because even if it's an analog watch or a digital watch, if you go into ritual, the likelihood of you coming out of that ritual needing to buy a new watch is very good. I think there was only one person I ever allowed to wear their watch, and that was because of who they were, what they did for a job, and who their patron deity was. And that it all revolved around clocks. But other than that, you keep everything on. The only time that you would allow people to keep maybe a digital thingy on their wrist is if they have a medical condition and that wrist thingy or finger thingy will detect a medical episode before it becomes an emergency.
That's a very good point. Thank you, Karen.
No worries.
Another thing to help you prepare for a large group ritual is, if possible, have understudies for the different roles. The worst ritual that I ever led was a harvest home where I had laryngitis and couldn't sing because our public ritual practice is we sing to cast the circle and call the quarters. Matter of fact, I have lots of singing and other musical stuff in my rituals because that helps to engage people because they can participate in all the songs. Everybody here in the South Bay knows the circle casting and quarter calling song that I use. Everybody knows the asperging and charging song that I use. So everything was fine for the parts that I didn't need to do a solo for. But it was very hard for me to speak. It was very distracting for me to be constantly coughing and groaning and croaking. And the other thing that happened in that ritual was the drummers didn't show up. So we really had to wing it, and we got through the ritual is the best I can say about it. Because I did not have an understudy to take over for me as high priestess in case I had a problem. So it's a good idea to assume that any of your officiating ritualists could potentially have a problem and need to bow out. So if you have enough people who can be understudies, that would be really good. Also, if possible, write your ritual in such a way that you can cut out the roles of people who have to bow out for some reason. Work within your human resources limits and don't overreach your available number of ritualists. If you have one person who's having to do all the different parts of the ritual, then you really should not be the one leading that ritual. You should pass it on to someone who is able to assemble a group of officiants who can properly handle it all. And if you end up having to run the entire ritual just by yourself, well, sometimes those things happen. So you get through it as best you can, but a really good public ritual is generally a team effort. So as I mentioned earlier, where people's attention goes, their energy goes. And that means you have to control their energy and their attention. That is your job in order to create the kind of experience that people came to have. So avoid letting anybody hijack your ritual. If you opened it up for everyone to talk, a hijack is likely. If during cakes and wine you whoever it is that hasn't muted their phone, muted their microphone and has noise in the background, please mute your microphone because it's very distracting to have that noise in the background. If during cakes and wine you let people do announcements, that's fine, but like for like upcoming events or something, but I prefer to have that either before the ritual starts or after the whole thing is over, because because sometimes somebody will say, oh, well, we're doing this, we're going to be doing a Beltane ritual in the park on May 1st, and we always do them there, and and last year we weren't able to do it because I was pregnant, but this year my kid's a year old, so I think we're going to be okay, and it people will go on and on like that sometimes. So I really prefer not to even have announcements during cakes and wine. What I like to do instead is I have a song that people can sing during cakes and wine when they aren't chewing and drinking, and if I don't have a song for them to all sing, then I try to have a chorus that is doing a song that they can at least sing the chorus to. And I see Karen or Evan has a hand up.
Wait. Okay, go ahead, Evan.
Very quick one, since we have a lot of younger people writing ritual, and they're often making this mistake now. Your ritual book, aside from being well organized and secure so it's not going to flip around, make sure the fonts are large enough that older people can read it. I cannot read 12-point font at any distance anymore. And I tend to recommend color coding the book so that there's clear titling. With color coding, maybe you'll have a color code for the priest and the priestess. You'll have a color code for things that are said as opposed to a code for things that are instructions. It just makes it easier to read the book, especially if someone hasn't gone through the ritual beforehand.
Yeah, and simple fonts, not your flourishy, like fun fonts, not your Celtic-y or Tolkien-y fonts or anything like that. Keep it to like a nice serif, Times New Roman or something along those lines that can be read quite easily, and at least a 16th, if not 18-point font for what is being read. In black, not blue, not green, not purple.
For the large group rituals being done during the day, back when I had access to a color printer, I would have the words to be spoken. Everything was in like 16-point and up typeface, but the words to be spoken would be in black, and the stage directions, for want of a better word, were in a dark green, and they were in italics, and notations for the drummers in particular were in red. So things to avoid: lectures, talking heads. Presenters should not stand still, walk around the circle, or have some kind of motion that you're doing. Because if you're just standing there like a stick and reciting an incantation or whatever, it's much harder for people to focus. Avoid long meditations, otherwise known as a nap, in a large public ritual. Avoid long or prosaic incantations. If you're going to have a an invocation, an incantation, a song, make it simple enough that people can join in, or else have it be short. And preferably it should be poetic. And if it rhymes, so much the better. I mean, Gerald Gardner knew that. Avoid foreign language incantations. Avoid long, complicated group songs that everybody doesn't already know. Avoid their rustling script pages. Avoid calling on deities that nobody's ever heard of unless the ritual itself teaches enough about the deity to engage everyone. And obviously, as I said before, you should already be acquainted with whoever it is you're working with. Avoid mumbling, avoid fidgeting, and avoid dead air during cakes and wine or at any other point, really. And instead, do this. Keep your speeches short and clear. Move around. Engage all the senses. Bells, smells, music, movement. Get them physical. Have them dance, clap, gesture, even do breath work, but have them do something. Have interaction and group participation as much as possible. And if necessary, insert something participatory, even if it's not otherwise needed by the ritual structure, because you have to, like I said, keep them engaged. You have to control their energy. You owe it to them to do so in order to create the experience that they came there to have. Use group songs and chants that should be good. Here's a counter example from a popular, I don't know why it was popular, but it was, right after 9/11, there was this song that was published, it was played on the radio, it came out, I'm glad to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. That's bad grammar, and it's stupid, and it's sappy. And use songs and chants that make sense, that are short and easy to learn, and simple and easy to learn on the fly. Also, don't sing and dance at the same time, because most people have trouble with either one, let alone both at the same time. You have people dance and sing at the same time, they're going to be out of breath in about 10 seconds, and they're going to be stumbling around, and they're not going to be focused on the experience of the ritual. They're going to be focused on, oh my God, I got to get through this, and am I going to get back to my place, and blah, 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 blah. So it'll take them completely out of experiencing the ritual the way you intended it to be. Cakes and ale are often a drag time. So to keep people from chattering, maintain the focus and the energy with a song performance, a group song, or at least drumming. I like a song performance. Like I said, that All Among the Barley song that we do at Harvest Home. A good performance song is engaging, but a song that has a chorus they can join in on is best. A group song that they're all expected to sing along on throughout the whole thing is going to interfere with their eating and drinking. Let's see.
We have a chance, Valerie. I have a couple of kibitz points.
Okay, this is probably a good time. I've got a little bit more to say, but it's just a bit of a transition. So
Okay. A couple of things. One is you mentioned no dead air, and one thing that I found is really useful is to be prepared to step in if there's dead air. Like I remember there was one time we were doing a Beltane ritual and the charcoals would not light, and so everybody's sitting around waiting for the charcoals to light. And there's this old British folk song called Hallantoe, and so I just step in front of the altar and I start singing. Take no scorn to wear the horns, it was the crest when you were born. Your father's father wore it, and your father wore it too. And at that point, I noticed the charcoals went, psh, and I just like bowed and sort of did a thing, and then we started the ritual, and nobody knew it wasn't part of the ritual. Um, Other thing is about explication. If you feel the need to explicate something, here's something you can do instead. Make it a ritual act. Like somebody forgets to call the quarters. Like, their job is to call the quarters. Say, let the quarters be called, or something like that. Or yes, light the yes, yes, light the charcoal before we start the rite. Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. And we forgot. And the other thing is like, or if it's the goddess that nobody's ever heard of, and you suddenly realize, oh my goddess, nobody's ever heard of this goddess. Go like, oh great goddess that nobody's ever heard of. You know, name her name or whatever. Got mother of the grain. Bringer of all music or whatever it is that she's the goddess of. Like, please bless us and grace us with your presence or something. And that way people go, they don't know what the goddess is, they never heard of her, but at least they know something about her now. And you didn't have to stop and explain. So this goddess is the goddess of the grain and music.
Let's see. A few sort of random things. If this is a really public ritual, you might want to have someone whose job it is to get the word out about it. Your invitations and public announcements should go out early, and maybe a couple of weeks beforehand have a reminder. Make sure you include who's invited and may they bring guests or not, because sometimes that's fine and sometimes it's not. What sort of ritual is it? Is it a Pride Day ritual? Is it a Sabbath? The date and place, gather time, start time, and perhaps anticipated length of the ritual. What to wear, what to bring, and admission or donation request, if any.
Can I just pop in here in regards to that, because we do a lot of this here in Toronto, in Southern Ontario. Yes, so marketing is absolute key to get people out, and include everything in the posters that you post up in at occult shops or even online. Use social media as a place to market you, and save the dates if you know the date, but you're not going to set out a Facebook event listing right away. Put out a save the date poster for it so people can mark that in their calendar. Then later you can create the event. Then you share that event everywhere you think is appropriate on Facebook groups and stuff like that. And you'll get people coming out, and make sure, as you said, have list everything that they may need to know and the like. I would also include that when people come, especially people who've never been to a ritual before, have a couple of people, at least one or two people, who are greeters to new people, because it is incredibly nerve-wracking to go into any social or social religious situation where you do not know anybody and you do not know anything about what you're about to get yourself into. Having somebody who is knowledgeable, who is there, I'm not talking about somebody who is doing the ritual, I'm talking somebody who is there, what we might call a summoner or whomever, a greeter to maybe say, hey, welcome, so and so. So I haven't seen you before. It's like, oh, how did you find? Make them feel comfortable. Have them stand beside you in ritual and stuff, so that they feel safe and they feel welcomed. Because the worst thing you can do is have people who come in are nervous and scared, and they bring that energies into the ritual, and then they leave feeling that this isn't a space that is welcoming to them. If people are welcoming to strangers, then the strangers become friends, and the friends become maybe eventual initiates. That's my 5 cents, because I pay in Canadian and we don't have pennies.
By the way, Valerie, theoretically it's your 5 minute warning, but I think we can go over. So I don't think that's a problem.
Well, I'm just about done, but just a couple more random things. Plan your ritual with venue in mind. Like if you know you're going to be doing this ritual in a hotel, check to make sure whether incense and candles are allowed. Make any adjustments that are necessary. If you're going to be on uneven ground somewhere, I mean, you want to be on flat ground if possible, but if you're going to be on uneven ground, do not have a circle dance, because you don't want people to fall down. Consider accessibility issues, what the facilities are, their bathrooms are. Is there a kitchen if you're going to need to cook something for a potluck afterwards? The weather, and reserve your space well ahead of time. If you're going to do it in a public spot, get any permits that you may need. Here, there's one park that we can reserve well ahead of time, but we have to reserve it because otherwise somebody else might get to it first. And then there's another park, the one close to me, that unfortunately they don't take reservations. So in order to have our ritual there, we had to get there like 6 a.m. and getting up and arriving at 6 for a 2 p.m. ritual was not much fun. Consider cross calls for the quarters. That is to say, the person who is calling, for example, the west, might want to stand in the east so that when they project their voice, the entire circle can hear. Whereas if they're standing in the west and they call the west, very likely only the people who are standing in the western part of the circle are going to hear it. So your quarter callers might want to stand in the center or at the opposite side of the circle to call the quarter. Let's see, rehearse, especially rehearse the transitions, because that's where most rituals lose the interest of the assembly. And if possible, you should have at least one rehearsal at the venue. The transition points are like between the different structural parts of the ritual, like between the circle casting and the quarter calling, between the quarter calling and the deity salutes, between the deity salutes and whatever is your sort of main working part, your maypole dance or whatever it is you're going to do. Between your maypole dance and whatever you're going to do next, whether that's cakes and wine or ending the ritual or doing a song, whatever it is, don't have dead air, don't have gaps. So rehearse those parts. Even if you can't do a full rehearsal of the entire ritual, rehearse those parts if you can. So I think that's most of what I have to say. Are there questions or more comments?
Yeah, it looks like Evan is raising his hand.
Okay, Evan.
You're up.
Alrighty, a quick one from a music point of view, because it's such an important part of Wiccan ritual. If you have people who are eager to volunteer to do things like be the lead drummer or be the one doing singing, test them beforehand to see whether A, they can hit a note accurately and consistently, and B, whether they can actually keep a beat. Because sometimes we get people who are very eager to join public rituals who don't have skill on their instrument or skill with the voice. Well, you can let them join in and make sure they're not thinking they're going to be the leaders of those activities.
I'll add to that. So for the person who is leading the chant or the chant for everybody, you need to be able to be louder than almost everybody so that people can hear when they are supposed to slow down or release. The other thing here is if there's a cone of power being done at an open ritual and energies are going up, it's a really good idea to give people an idea of how many more times the chant is going to be sung before everybody releases it. So giving like in between just the nano moment before you finish the chant and then you start it up again, that over and over, just say 3 more times so everybody knows. It's like, okay, we're going to do it 3 more times, and then the last time we're just going to send it off. And I find that works just brilliantly, so everybody's on the same page for when that's happening. If it's not a power raising, then you want to make sure that you're louder so everybody can hear when it's time to slow down and end the chant or song.
Yes, there are a couple other techniques for that as well. I like having drummers because I can signal the drummers, and good drummers know how to pink the power and make other people do it without sending a signal. And also another way is I have a a wonderful circle sister who is who toured Europe as a singer and opened at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. And she has a set of pipes on her like you will not believe. And she can drown out the entire rest of the assembly if she wants to. So I get her to lead things. I make her my cantor. And she's very sweet about me always putting her to work this way. But if for some reason she is sick, another thing you can do is you can have the person leading the chant form the next note in a chord, like we all come from the goddess, we all come from the goddess, we all come from the goddess, and switch to the highest note of the chord and really belt it out for the very last one. And that will usually signal to people that, this is the last time. And make sure that you can hold that note. Like a drop of rain flowing to the ocean. Another thing you can do is you can let people know ahead of time. When I ring this bell, we start the last repetition of the chant. Just make sure that you have the bell handy and that you didn't forget to put it on the altar and that you have something to ring it with, because your little ding-a-ling-a-ling bell might not be something everybody can hear. You want to have a big bell you can wham on it like a great big pot lid or something. One of those bells that's really loud. Yeah, bang.
The other thing is that, like, after you open circle, people are going to expect the ritual to be over. Like, there was this one ritual I went to where there was a great ritual. It's just that they opened circle, all that kind of stuff, and then it's like we started talking, like some of us leaders in the group we're starting to talk about when we would do like announcements, and started going into announcements and things like that because I thought the ritual was over. And then the high priest had to like get us all back on track to do this final ritual thing that he wanted to do. And it was like, and the thing is that it's like I'm like 40 feet away from him, so I can't hear that he's going. There's actually a wait, stop. There's wait, don't do that. I wanted to do this thing. So it's like my thing is do that. Do the final thing you want to do in the ritual before you open circle, and then open circle, and then because people are going to assume it's done when you do that. All right, Karen is raising her hand.
Yeah, so and also try and keep the ritual at about the 45-minute mark. Usually after about 45 minutes to an hour, people are like going, when is this thing going to be over? Unless it's really rocking. Um,
We once attended a ritual that was 8.5 hours.
Oh my
The
god.
actual ritual was 8.5 hours.
it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And then and then we were at a festival where we knew the same people were doing the main ritual for the event, the festival. We knew what was going to happen, so we didn't go. And as we're sitting outside our tent and stuff like that, waiting for 2 hours later, we're starting to see people leaving the ritual, and they're like going, and we're like going, is the ritual still going on? And they're like going, yes. We just had to leave. It was just like going on, and it was so you don't want people to vote with their feet. And now that ritual, that main ritual lasted 4 hours, and which was ridiculous. But and there was no inclusivity of the of people in that ritual, so people were just standing watching the ritualists, for the better of the word, ritually masturbate in front of everybody. And so please don't do that. Because and yeah, so it was like when people were leaving, people said it was like we would laugh. It's like, yeah, we had a feeling, that's why we didn't go. So, and it becomes really bad for the priesthood of who are leading that ritual. They end up getting this really not so great reputation, and then people wonder why isn't anybody coming to my rituals anymore? That's why.
By the way, just little administrative note. Karen, I don't think we have anybody on deck to do anything right now, right? We don't have a concert or something.
No,
Um,
we're basically done for the thingy. Oh, yeah, Kalisha, please feel free to steal the phrase "ritually masturbate."
yes,
Feel
yes.
free. Yeah,
Um,
whatever I say, I allow people to use. It's all good. I am not a censored person, so there you go.
so
Uh,
I just want to, so I'm still recording, and I figure we'll just keep on doing Q&A as long as people want, and round like 325 or so, I'll do closing ceremonies.
yeah, that sounds good if people are happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm
Great.
happy with that because we had some people. Does we have people here who aren't initiates. Do you guys have any questions about ritual?
No. Oh, wait. Oops. Oh,
We've got
shoot.
If you have any questions, just like do that hand thingy at the react button. But yeah, so that's one thing here that we do a lot here in Southern Ontario, Canada, is a lot of public facing rituals for our individual communities. Um, so which is great, and because there really is, when you offer open rituals to the community, people will find you and go in a way that looking online maybe won't work, or they find you online and through your marketing, and they go, I've been looking for Gardnerians, I've been looking for Alexandrians, I've been looking for this tradition or that tradition or whatever tradition you're working in, so I can connect. But it's a way for people to network as well, even before and after the ritual, and then it gives them a flavor not the full hamburger with all the fixings that are a mile high, but it gives them a little taste of what they could possibly expect if that's something they want to go down that rabbit hole later. So, yeah.
One other thing is South Bay Circles has gotten, as a group, has gotten really lazy. So I guess we're not doing it anymore, but we used to always have a table by the entrance that had a little flyer that said, we're South Bay Circles and this is who we are and this is what we do. And so that is something when I do go to somebody else's public rituals, I always pick up one of whatever they're handing out, because I always want to know more about who I am working with, spending time with. So something else to think about.
Let's see. Any other questions or comments or anything like that?
It's been an incredible, wonderful, informative weekend. And thank you for putting on the bash. Happy birthday, Gerald.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, happy birthday. Oh, let's see. It looks like Amy has a comment.
I actually have a question for everyone because I've only ever held a public ritual once, and it was not Gardnerian style. It was out here before we had a temple set up for the NWC. And so I'm going to be holding my first public rituals coming up, starting in the fall. And I just was wondering if anyone had any suggestions other than what has been mentioned during this presentation. Because Valerie, that was an excellent presentation. I was making notes and updating my ritual and everything while you were talking to
Thank
make
you.
sure I didn't forget anything.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, so because Amy is here in Canada and I know exactly what she's talking about. So take into account to the space that you're doing the ritual in. I know that you're doing the one in Toronto, so keep in mind the space. Think about what you're going to need to bring. All right. If you need, and because we're going to be here in Toronto, if there's anything you don't have, reach out to me. I will bring it. If there's anything that you need help with, to do this, reach out to me. Look at chants, things like that. I know that you and your high priest who's here today as well, and you have and your new initiate are going to be there, which is wonderful. But what you need to do is also reach out to see who else can help out, just as Valerie said. So keep in mind that delegate is good. Delegate means less for you to do and you can focus on what needs to be done. So delegate.
Yeah, I've already asked a couple people to be there for support in case I need them for different things. So
Yeah. So we can talk a bit more on that as to off of this, but yeah, because that's specific. But yeah, I'll let Valerie
that's
talk.
why I wanted to know if anyone else had questions because I've already messaged you about it. So
Okay.
My 2 cents is remember that you're serving people. Like I used to have stage fright when I first started doing ritual, and when you have stage fright, you start being quiet and not projecting and all that. And what I realized is once I realized this is not a play, there aren't critics who are going to say I'm pronouncing Shakespeare's wrong. Or I said my lines wrong or something. It's just I'm doing a service for my community, and once I realized that, I did like 1,000 times better.
okay.
One thing I was going to mention is that In addition to my ritual script, I always have a setup list, which has, you know, a list of everything I'm going to need, and starting with the table for the altar cloths,
Oh, I have that right in my ritual.
and I have a collection of altar cloths like you would not believe. I have altar cloths of I have giant altar cloths for every occasion. Um, all these different colors and fabrics and themes. I've got a flowery one for Beltane. I've got um, and I actually use an undercloth and an overcloth, and the overcloth is the one that I can go ahead and spill the candle wax on, and it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
But have yourself a setup list, and if there are things that you're missing, go talk to your friends and find someone who has one that they'll lend you. If you don't have the right kind of censer, or you don't have the right kind of incense and you can't get it, find somebody who does. People love to help. And on the day of the ritual, if people come up and offer to help, you know, some newcomer that you don't know, and they offer to help, they can help carry the cakes and wine around. There's almost always some stuff like that is going to need to be done, and that the more hands you have to do it, the better things will go. So just kind of bear that in mind, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you're out of ideas or out of supplies or whatever it is that you need.
Thank you, Valerie.
All right. Any other questions, comments, anything like that? If not, then I will stop recording here. We can, if people happen to have things, we can still talk. I'm going to end recording. So thank you very much, Valerie, for this really wonderful talk on ritual. I hope everybody got a lot out of this. I know I did. So I'm going to stop recording now.
Ivan